This is the 40th anniversary of the Louisiana Judicial College, and I'm glad to be a part of this video piece that tells something about the history and how we've developed and evolved. I've always been a person who believed in education for judges, and the Judicial College offers some excellent programs. We encourage judges to take advantage of all of those fine courses that we make available to them to be current, to interact with peers. It's just an excellent opportunity to do the job that they've been elected to do, and to make sure that they have the tools to do them with.
The Louisiana Judicial College was formed in part to provide an opportunity for quality continuing legal education for judges, exclusively for judges.
The Louisiana Judicial College is dedicated to providing quality legal education to judges throughout Louisiana. Primarily, this is accomplished through seminars that are presented throughout the state of Louisiana. The most important part, though, in a lot of ways, is not only the educational component of these seminars, but the opportunity for judges to interact with one another, to teach one another, and to learn from one another about matters related to the judiciary and the administration of justice.
Many of the judges who teach, and many of the lawyers who teach, they donate their time. I've never received an honorarium, nor have I asked for it, nor would I ask for it. I do my part when asked, in terms of teaching, to better learn the subject matter and to teach the subject matter, and so we're self-taught. You know, the board doesn't receive compensation or an honorarium. It's people that are interested in advancing judicial education in this state. And we are, for the most part, self-taught. Every now and then, of course, we may need to get an expert from out of state to come in to talk about one subject matter in particular. But I think it's an interesting dynamic in that we donate our time. The board members donate their time. We have an agenda every single meeting that we have, and we have minutes and action that's taken, and we check back later to make sure that what was done in the previous meeting was what we voted on was actually done. So we operate like a board of a corporation in some respects, or an LLC, and we expect our members to work, and we expect the college to go forward at all times. There's always room for improvement, and I think that we seek to continue to improve and evolve over time.
I think primarily we owe the success of the Judicial College to Harry. His efforts in the first 10 to 15 years. I don't mind taking some credit for it. I'm good at that. But I want to be honest and say I think the success of the Judicial College belongs to you.
I would second, third, and fourth the praise for Justice Lemmon, because Cheney's career took several different paths, many of which had to do with Justice Lemmon, and the reason I think that he enjoyed so much his role in the Judicial College is the relationship with Justice Lemmon and others. And as he came back, and for the last term, he met so many different people, some of whom of course were his students, but many of whom were not, and he really thoroughly enjoyed, as I think all of you know, being with people, and he was a people person. And I remember, of course, I would go with him to some of the things, not all of them. Cheney said, "Oh no, I'm just going to be working, so this is not going to be any fun. You can't go to the Mardi Gras thing in New Orleans." Oh, absolutely not, absolutely inappropriate. So I only went usually to the Judicial College summer school, which of course dovetailed with the Bar Association, but we never stayed for the Bar Association. Got to get back and go to work. But I asked Cheney, I said, "Now, it looks like to me that what you're doing is just kind of standing around outside. You know, I mean, shouldn't you be in there listening to what they're doing?" And he said, "No, I do much better just kind of talking to people and seeing how they're doing." and what they think of the program and when they're leaving and, you know, why they're leaving and this kind of stuff. So that was his MO, and I went to a couple of the judicial lectures, even though I shouldn't, or theoretically wasn't invited, although I was briefly an appointed judge when the Supreme Court was appointing. Justice Kimball appointed me here for a vacant seat, and I did attend some of the justice or the Judicial College things in that capacity. But one of the things that was so inspiring, I guess, to me when Cheney got sick, he got sick in the fall of 2015, and so many people, so many judges, from, you know, city court judges to Supreme Court justices, paid attention to him and wrote lovely, lovely letters. Justice Lemmon and Justice Weimer wrote thoughts that just inspired all of us. But what was really so special, and you mentioned it, is that they decided to make him the executive director emeritus, and I have, ta-da, the Supreme Court of Louisiana's order. I'll just read a little bit of it. It says it's order to judge and decree that Cheney C. Joseph Jr., February 1, 2001 to November 16, 2015, be and is hereby appointed as Executive Director Emeritus of the Judicial College in recognition and appreciation of his years of dedicated service, wise counsel, which is true, I think, and major contributions to the Louisiana Judicial College and the Louisiana State Judiciary. What was really neat is that Justice Noel came and presented this to him, and it's signed by Chief Justice Bennett Johnson, who was Cheney's classmate, incidentally, in the class of 1969, Justice Greg Guidry, Justice Scott Creighton, Justice Jeanette Noel, Justice Marcus Clark, Justice Jefferson Hughes, and Justice John Weimer. And this was so special. We had it in the room where Cheney was in his last illness, and he looked at it every day and would, you know, use his little cryptic smile, and just, he was so appreciative. And I think that his relationship with so many different judges and all of the executive directors that he's known so well really made a great deal of difference in his life. It kind of expanded his academic career. And of course, he did a lot of other things too, but this is one of his favorites.
I think we need to remember our dear friend Cheney Joseph, who was more than supportive of the changes in the Judicial College. I know we all talked to him, and he was 100% behind us making the changes. He was never a naysayer. He was always, yes, let's try it, let's move on. And you know, we lost him much too soon.
We did lose him much too soon, and he was always willing with us to let us take a few risks, right? And if the seminar bombed, so what? You know what I mean? We learned from it, and he was always willing to. And what he was able, what was so terrific, well, there are a gazillion things terrific about Professor Joseph, but his institutional memory, he knew where every landmine in the state was. So when we would say something like, we'd like to do this, he'd say, perhaps you might want to go talk to so-and-so.
Right.
Perhaps, you know, he was doing that or she was doing that 20 years ago. And he could always connect those dots for us in a way that was so helpful.
And he really knew how to approach, to soften the entrance. You know, when you got there, for whatever the ask was, you kind of knew that Cheney had sort of been the good angel on somebody's shoulder to make sure you were all right.
Yeah.
But he had that good yin-yang of having all that institutional knowledge, but by the same token, not holding us back.
Right.
And, you know, if you want to go do that, I'm all for it. Let's make that change. But beware of this and that. And so there is a good balancing act there that he was priceless.
And we could have had an executive director that would not have been so open to change. I mean,
Absolutely.
that would have made this process
sure.
a lot harder.
And one of the most popular panels often was the one on torts. So I had the privilege of being on that with Tom and Bill and Frank Murray. And we could always count on, you know, he would have helped prepare the outline. He would have told us kind of what we thought would be good to cover because he was so known, as these two gentlemen are as well, for torts. But we always knew that he had not included in the outline some opinion. You'd offer some thought, and then you could count on Frank saying, well, what do you think about the Jones opinion that came out last night about 4:30? And he always had it, and we just counted on it being a surprise to give the judges the absolute latest information.
And Frank would, as both of you will recall, and that's one of the really wonderful things about Judicial College is even when you're not the executive director, quite often faculty members are invited and former executive directors have been invited to participate in the programs. And so those are relationships that have been maintained through the years, and we have been on a number of programs together. And another thing that Frank liked to do is he liked to have a breakfast before a morning CLE panel presentation. We had to have the breakfast, and I always thought, well, this breakfast, Frank's going to show his cards. He's going to pull out that surprise opinion, but it never happened.
No.
That
Even
wasn't
though
the
it was
purpose of
an
the
hour-
breakfast. I think the purpose of the breakfast was to eat, but
Right.
there was no surprise opinion.
No, and even though the program was coming up in about an hour and a half, he was not prepared to put
That's
that out.
the card he kept up
That's
here
correct.
up his sleeve, and that would come out during the program.
I think a lot of credit has to go to Billie Bennett too, who also, with the, change is hard, right? It's hard on all of us. And so Billie, who's just been the face of the college for so
Right.
many judges and really takes care of everybody
Doesn't
above
get
and
nearly
beyond.
enough credit.
Doesn't get enough credit for what she does, and above and beyond sort of the call of her job. And, has really, the changes were scary in the beginning for her, understandably, and she has also really stepped up to the plate
Absolutely.
and supported everything that we've done. And
As
really,
has Marion.
Yeah,
Yes.
Marion as
Who-
well.
who's
These are exciting times.
Numbers
They
cruncher.
are.
The Judicial College has always enjoyed a collaborative working relationship with the Louisiana Supreme Court. The court relies on the Judicial College to provide educational opportunities for judges, and the Supreme Court has always supported those efforts by the college. The Judicial College has a symbiotic relationship with the LSU Law Center. The Law Center has always provided facilities to operate the Judicial College. In addition, the Law Center has provided faculty members who have served as executive directors, and we have been incredibly fortunate from the standpoint that such notable attorneys and professors, such as Frank Murray, Tom Galligan, Alston Johnson, Cheney Joseph, and currently Bill Corbett, have worked with the Judicial College to help provide legal education to judges.
Most state judicial colleges don't have the input from their law schools, and to have it here is invaluable.
Yeah, that was
Great
not, when we
relationship.
studied all of those states, that was a component that we had, that they said, we should do that. So whenever you're learning between and amongst, groups, you find, there were some things that Florida was doing that they said, we recommend you not do. Just some various.
Some of it was funding. It
Yeah,
was
some of it was
interesting.
funding. They got their funding. They went to the legislature to get a stream of funding and said, that was a bad idea. We shouldn't have done that. We recommend you do it differently. And so as we studied those states, we pulled pieces and parts of what they were doing to merge into what we were doing, and what the two things that we were doing that they really said, we wish we were doing more of that, and they now have begun, is our judicial mentoring program and this relationship with the law schools. Those were the two that we didn't want to get rid of. Those were part of, who we were.
At the request of the dean of LSU Law School, we did decide to put on a summer school program along with the education programs for lawyers, and it really worked out well. And it kept on getting better and better. We were in Destin, finally, is where they wound up holding the summer school each year. And the crowds for judges were so large that we had to have 2 rooms. They didn't have room big enough for us to hold it in one room. And so the presenters had to put on their show 2 times. Frank was so good about selecting topics because he keeps up with the law countrywide so much, and that was very helpful because we wanted to make the things interesting as well as educational.
Summer school gives the judges and the lawyers the chance to be together for, while other meetings aren't together, they're together for an extended period of time, so that not only are they sharing substance, but they're getting to know each other better, understand relationship, understand law, and understand what role each plays. So I think the summer school is again, it's a really important relationship building as well as substantive program for the college and for the Louisiana State Bar.
Well, I agree with that, and the philosophy behind it, and Justice Lemmon explained this to me when I started, was that we wanted those relationships and that interaction between the judges and the lawyers. Now, as we talked about yesterday, when we first started doing it, and this was true for many years, that the first day of the summer school was a joint program. Sunday featured a joint program where the judges and lawyers attended the CLE together. And then we would go our separate ways for the additional 3 or 4 days and have separate programming. That has changed over the years, and now it is a more integrated program that is planned jointly by the Judicial College and the State Bar Association, and there's a lot more mingling, and it's all in one location now.
Right.
So it's a different program, whereas in the past it was 1 day of joint meetings. Now the two groups are together virtually the whole time.
And I think we also have to compliment Judge Wicker, because she took a summer school program that we had nothing but complaints about, that they didn't offer anything, and turned it into a program that now there's too much offered, that there's too many choices. And I mean, she took this by the horns and got that going, and she deserves a lot of credit for that, because it's turned the summer school into
it's huge, and what's so great, I think, for
It's
Judge
just
Wicker,
not like to go to the beach.
No, it's not to go to the beach, but
It's too much sand.
There are so many programs, but what's great about that is you might find yourself in a room with 15 judges, which is great. I mean, you might find yourself in a room with 200 and lawyers and judges and all that, but you can often find yourself in a small opportunity for us to do big think.
In 1996 or 5-ish, a federal lawsuit was resolved, which caused a golden parachute. So judges were offered the opportunity for early retirement, which meant that a lot of older judges retired. The face of the judiciary changed dramatically. There were suddenly, beginning in January '97, far more women and far more African Americans and far more younger judges. And it changed from what we learned in that 2000 report, but what you felt viscerally was that it changed what judges wanted. They didn't want just a panel of talking heads about recent developments. They wanted to know, how do I manage my docket well? How do I deal with the people in front of me? How do I get myself in their moccasins? How do I write a good decision?
Justice Lemmon had this idea, and it's a brilliant idea, that the new judge orientation should be expanded. And the reason for that was that about 80 judges, 80 plus judges had retired or had announced that they would be retiring at the end of 1996. So there was just this slew of new judges who were about to take the bench. And so Justice Lemmon's concept was that we needed to expand that. And so really with him, with Judge Plotkin, and then also with Judge Ross Foote, who had approached the court with the idea of a judicial mentoring program, the new judge program went from being a shorter 2-day program to what I recall was a 4-day program. And we did it in Baton Rouge, and I think that's been the scope of that program since.
One of the most important roles of the Judicial College is to provide education opportunities for new judges. This new judge program that is sponsored by the Judicial College provides educational opportunities for newly elected judges, teaching them about the responsibilities imposed on them as a judge, and helping bridge the gap between those who have practiced law and those who will become judges.
Opportunity for me to come to the new judges training. I didn't come from the district court bench. I came directly from the legislature, and so it was a great opportunity to learn from individuals who had been judges for long periods of time. And of course, I initially went to some other trainings. I went to Reno, to the National Judicial College, and I went to the New York University's College for Appellate Judges, but it's nothing like getting with Louisiana judges and learning how it's done here in Louisiana. So the Judicial College was a great entryway for me, particularly not coming off the district court bench. Well, one of the things I think that has helped too is the training the trainers.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
And I think that's been very beneficial to the college because, again, preparing members of the board and other judges to actually go throughout the state and do training at these various conferences, and to do it in a structured way because, again, adult education is a lot different. And so to have that training, the trainers, the money that we were able to get to do that, they came in the state. Some of us went to Reno to get the training, and so I think that was very beneficial to strengthening the teaching core of the college.
One of our responses as Judicial College over the years is the movement of conferences, and I'm thinking of that in Shreveport, as well as the development of a rural court seminar. And you're describing exactly where we're realizing small groups and we're asking for evaluations, and that's what folks are saying more of, is that we like the one-on-one conversations or the smaller groups, and that we're incorporating those kind of techniques into
But that's
our
a
adult
that's
ed.
a result of having funding. Before we had funding, in the olden days, we only could have large seminars because you had to make money, and you had to, and if you didn't have 100 or 100 and something people there, you couldn't have the seminar. Now we're refreshed to have a seminar of 30 people, or 35 people, or 15 people. It's okay because of that. We're not worried that we're maybe losing money by renting a room or something like that.
Soon after Katrina, Justice Kimball, who was then Chief Justice, said to a few of us, step it up, take it up, straighten it out, go figure it out. And she actually, to her credit, sent an email out to judicial educators around the country and said, tell us 4 or 5 states that are doing this well. Tell us 4 or 5 states whose judicial colleges have stepped up and really doing great. And among those great things were mentoring and new judge training. We studied those states, and that really helped us sort of begin implementing what you now see today, which is the more active board and those changes.
Law is dynamic. It's always changing and evolving, and that's true in the federal realm. It's true in terms of the federal courts, and certainly the United States Supreme Court. We are duty bound by our oath, of course, to follow the law of the land, and we have to constantly be aware of the changes in the federal law and the developments at the United States Supreme Court, because we are duty bound, of course, to follow all that. And the same is true here in the state in terms of the legislative action that's taken every year, and in terms of the case law that comes out through our 5 appellate courts and the Supreme Court. We've got to educate ourselves and each other about all these changes, because and I think that's especially important. It's important for all of us, but the district court judges are the trial judges, and as Justice Scalia once said, the trial judge is where the rubber meets the road, and they all, a couple of hundred of them, several hundred of them, have to understand what the law is in every area, and therefore there's the need to stay abreast of all of the changes all the time, because lives and liberty are at stake. You know, in the criminal realm, of course, liberty is at stake, and criminal laws are changing all the time, either through our legislative action or the United States Supreme Court. So we've got to be on top of that at all times. And the same is true of civil matters and jury trials and all of the work that we do. We've got to serve the public in the best way we can, and we've got to stay on top of all of the developments and changes in the law. this is driven by people that are passionate about education, and those that donate their time. As I've always said, we have a passion to do what we do, and that's why we donate and contribute our time to the college.
The law is constantly evolving. The legislature meets annually, the laws have changed. Court cases are rendered on a daily basis. And so it's incredibly important for judges to remain current on legislation, new court cases, and the ever-evolving technology that impacts judicial decisions.
You know, I would say that the Judicial College is a whole lot like Louisiana itself, which is that there's a lot to enjoy. And so people enjoy each other, they enjoy their fellowship, they enjoy their relationships. But I've never failed to be impressed with the commitment and the dedication and the focus of the speakers, of the judges, of the court. And I think that they take their lead from Justice Lemmon, who was there at the start in really in shaping this, in emphasizing the quality of the judiciary of the state of Louisiana.
I think it's a great compliment to both the Louisiana Supreme Court and all of the people who've been involved. This is now a 40-year educational enterprise, and lots of educational enterprises don't last that long. I don't mean universities and colleges, but things like this that are adjunct to that. To have a 40-year successful run at this, if my math is right, is extraordinary, and lots of people can take credit for that. And we've named some of the really guiding lights. But I think we should just be sure everybody understands this is a remarkable achievement, and I'm sure we've got another 40 years to go at least.